Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Dustin. Rather than doing individual book reviews, as I have been doing, which seem to, unless you're a 20-year-old girl that's attractive, nobody's going to watch your videos. So I'm just going to do like a general like reading wrap up, I think, from now on. Kind of like what I read and then what I'm currently reading. I'll probably do these at the end of the month. So you're going to basically be seeing like one book video per month, I think, unless there's a book that I really want to talk about, and then I'll do an individual book review for it. But we'll start with what I finished reading. So, Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is the Richard Pevere and Larissa Volokhonsky translation. I had read this before. I'd read the Sidney Moniz translation twice. And in comparison, I'll just say between these two versions, anyways, I didn't really see a whole lot of, I don't know, difference between them. I mean, I did read them side by side, other than in the Sidney Moniz translation, you get a map of St. Petersburg, Russia in the front. And a lot of times when you will read Dostoevsky, you'll see, for instance, he'll say like K Boulevard, right? Dostoevsky will say that. Well, in the Richard Pevere translation, they will just say Street K or K Boulevard, whereas Sidney Moniz, because scholars know which streets they're actually talking about and stuff, they will go ahead and put it in there. So Sidney Moniz will actually put like the bridge and street names and everything, and the Volokhonsky translation does not retain that. The other big thing between the differences in these versions is that the Pevere Volokhonsky translation has the footnotes, so you can flip to the back and see, the little historical notes that they put in there, which is very helpful. As far as one translation over the other, which one I preferred reading, I think I actually prefer the Sidney Moniz translation just ever so slightly in comparison to the Pevere and Volokhonsky translation. But like with all translations, it's going to be based upon your preference. Um, so yeah, I really don't have a whole lot else to say about this. Crime and Punishment, I think both of these are fine. There's just slight differences between the two, but they're pretty much very similar. I mean, they're both very good in comparison to I have listened to the Constance Garnett translation on audiobook, and hers is much more, I guess you'd say, vintage flavored. So if you like that old timey, I guess, like English sounding literature, um, perhaps hers is more up to speed for you. But scholars do agree that she worked very rapidly and that her translations can be sloppy, because if she came across a word that she didn't know or couldn't translate, she would just like push something there and move on because she worked very fast. But her translations are still very good. Okay. So, Crime and Punishment, get that out of the way. The other thing I finished was nonfiction, The Life and Times of Grigory Rasputin by Alex I don't know how you say this, Alex DeJonge? Jones? I don't know. Alex Jones. So, yeah, was published in 1982. It doesn't have all of the most recent historical stuff surrounding Rasputin that's available since the opening of the Soviet archives. However, I thought it was very well done. It kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Desensibilizes. I can't say it. Sensationalize. Desensationalizes. There you go. The life of Grigory Rasputin. Now, this is about the life and time, so you get a lot of historical context in relation to this enigmatic figure from Siberia. Some people think he's the devil incarnate. Other people regard him as a holy fool. There's some people that even think that he should be venerated. I am not in that camp. St. John of Kronstadt met Rasputin and said that you shall be as your name. And Rasput, I think in Russian means debauched person. So, and St. Elizabeth, the new martyr, didn't have very nice things to say about Rasputin herself. However, I don't think that some of the things that are said about Rasputin are fabrications, they're lies to besmirch the Romanovs. He never had an affair with the Tsarina Alexandra. That is a total fabrication. So the song "Rah Rah Rah Rasputin" is, quite frankly, slander against the royal family, the royal martyrs. So I would recommend this book as a great starting place if you're going to investigate into the life of Rasputin. I happen to think that this was a pretty fair and balanced presentation regarding the figure, again, which desensationalizes the character and presents him as a human being, both his good points and his flaws. Next up, we'll move on to, I don't have it here. Let me grab it real quick. Okay, so this is Richard Matheson's Haunted Past Reason. This book is crap. I do not recommend reading it. I thought it was a colossal piece of garbage. If you really want to know what it's about two guys that go on a hiking trip. One of them is a writer, and the other one is an out-of-work actor. And at a certain point, you flip the switch, which is, it's not even subtle. You realize that Doug is a psychopath the minute that he starts spewing out his admiration for Tiny Mustache Man. So it's just like, okay, this guy's going to be evil incarnate. And the book, if you've seen Deliverance, right? There's a scene with Ned Beatty, the squeal like a piggy scene. Yeah, well, this dude Bob gets tied up to a tree and assaulted. And yeah, it's pretty off-putting. I do not recommend it. It's not a good book. Stephen King is a big fan of Richard Matheson. I recommend reading I Am Legend, the classic vampire novel by Matheson. But Haunted Past Reason is, you could buy the book and use it for toilet paper. That's about it. All right, moving on to the next book. This is what I'm currently reading. Okay, got 3 books here. I'm going to wrap things up. So we've got book number 9 in the Wheel of Time, Winter's Heart. As you can see, I'm right there. I'm about 200 pages in. And as with the previous 2 books, I'm not reviewing this individually, or it would be a big rant fest, because this series has been a colossal disappointment. So, working on that. I am, since Great Lent started, I'm reading some spiritual literature. I've got My Elder Joseph the Hesychast, okay, written by Elder Ephraim. Joseph the Hesychast has been canonized as a saint very recently. He was, born in Greece in the 19th century. I believe he died or reposed in the 1950s. I do have his icon here on my wall, But yeah, hesychasm. So he was a monastic monk that went to Mount Athos. Okay, this is kind of like the center of Orthodox spirituality. There's a monastic island that there's a bunch of monasteries up there, and this was a ascetic, but a person that practiced hesychasm, the Jesus prayer. Okay, so you have a prayer rope, and actually mine's not here, but the prayer is, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, or Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. There's a couple variations of it, but there is a whole devotional practice surrounding the Jesus prayer. And St. Joseph the Hesychast, you see he's got a prayer rope here on the cover, and his hand right here. They have various size prayer ropes. Some of them are 100 knots. Some of them are more simple, 33 knots. I have one of the 33 knot ones. But if you want to know more about the Jesus prayer and how it's done, there is a book of Russian composition. It's called The Way of a Pilgrim, and it's about a Stranik, a holy wanderer in 19th century Russia, and it basically covers his exploits as he wanders across Russia. He's a Russian peasant, much like Grigory Rasputin. Okay, Grigory Rasputin was not a monk or a priest. He was never tonsured or ordained. He was just a wandering person, one of these stronics. So the Way of a Pilgrim covers the life of this Stronic, unnamed, as he wanders across Russia, meeting various people while practicing the Jesus prayer. So even if you're not into it for the spiritual, you know, I guess the spiritual nectar that you can extract from it as a historical document, if you want to know more about the life of this phenomenon that took place in Russia in the 19th century, right? Then you can read that book and you'll learn about like the life of a Stronic, a holy wanderer. Okay, so finally wrapping things up, more Russian literature. We've got Dr. Zhivago by Boris Pasternak. Now, I've seen some people say that this is a very difficult read. All right. And so far, I'm not having too much trouble with it. I think the problem that people are having is if you do not have any background information on the Russian Revolution, okay, on, for instance, like the Russo-Japanese War in 1905, you don't know about that. You don't know about the Red Square, what do they call that? The massacre that took place around in St. Petersburg in 1905, the demonstrations. A lot of this historical information finds its way into the book, including like the Russian Civil War, the Reds versus the Whites, and then World War One. Okay, so maybe I'll just read the back here. First published in Italy in 1957 amid international controversy, the CIA pushed this book. The Soviet Union banned its publication, and it was taken into Italy and published in Italian first. Dr. Zhivago is the story of the life and loves of a poet-physician during the turmoil of the Russian Revolution. Taking his family from Moscow to what he hopes will be shelter in the Ural Mountains, Yuri Zhivago finds himself instead embroiled in the battle between the White Army and the Bolshevik Reds of the Russian Civil War. Set against the backdrop of cruelty and strife and Zhivago's love for the tender, beautiful Laura, the very embodiment of pain and chaos of those cataclysmic times. This is the Paviran Volokonsky translation. It says they masterfully restore the spirit of Pasternak's original, his style, rhythms, voicings, and tones, and this beautiful translation of a classic world literature. So, yeah, the CIA was involved in pushing this book, getting it translated into Russian and sent back into the Soviet Union. It was a Cold War tool. All right. It won the Nobel Prize, but Pasternak was not able to go and receive the award. He was threatened with exile and then wrote a letter to Nikita Khrushchev asking to not be deported, saying basically that being expatriated from his land would be the equivalent of, death, that he was bound to the Russian soil. So I don't have anything else for you today. That's just a real quick wrap up on what I'm reading, what I've read. Probably just going to skip to this format and do one of these a month, unless there's something that I really feel like talking about. Yeah, that's about it. There's 4 episodes left in the Star Trek rewatch. So Thursdays, my Thursday segment is coming to a close. We do have 6 Star Trek movies to get through after that. And I may just do 1 Star Trek film a month. I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. So maybe I'll talk about that more in the Star Trek wrap up for those of you that are watching that. But other than that, thank you for watching. Have you read any of these books? Are you interested in reading any of these books? Let me know your thoughts about them below. And have a wonderful day.